Albert K. Shin. He's recently been appointed to serve as National Deputy Director of the Minority Business Development Agency. In this role, Mr. Shin serves as the Principal Advisor to the MBDA National Director and will assist in managing the day-to-day operations of the agency. Prior to his appointment, Mr. Shin was a small business owner and respected community advocate whose leadership has made a big impact on some of the Northwest's largest and most critical infrastructure and environmental cleanup projects. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Albert Shin.
Okay, good morning everyone. I feel a little bit out of place as the federal government on e-commerce because we know how fast the government is with electronics. I still have a BlackBerry actually, so. But it's definitely a pleasure to be here. And one thing, myself and one of my colleagues here, we've definitely started this trend that the government really want to capture, and I think as part of this e-commerce is social media. So I want to do a little demo for you what we're doing here. May, can you come up here? I'm going to show you what we're, come on. No, I'm not going to make you sing. It's okay. I've started this thing to get the federal government more engaged with social media since I just joined the government about 8 months ago. And, a little bit dull. So I'm going to do this. We're going to do a selfie for the whole group. I want everyone to wave the photobomb, okay? Here we go. One, two, three. Smile. Give her a hand. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do at MBDA for the U.S. Department of Commerce. And as I mentioned, I was a business owner before I got to Seattle. When I was in Seattle, I ran for a local office in Seattle. I didn't win, but as a consolation prize, I got a call from the White House to come join the administration. So it's been a pleasure to come to DC and help in the world of minority business development. So a little bit about MBDA, and I'll try and touch a little bit here on the technology and e-commerce, what we're doing. But MBDA is a 45-year-old agency. It was born out of the Nixon administration, out of the civil rights movement. But right now, within MBDA and the Department of Commerce, we're one of 12 bureaus. The other bureau is the U.S. Census. And what we see right now, by the year 2044, the United States is going to be a majority minority country. So what does that mean for the entrepreneurs out there and for the ownership of businesses in America, especially the small minority business community? There are 6 million businesses out there that are minority businesses. Asian Americans are the fastest growing segment of businesses and entrepreneurship in the country right now. They're more than 6 times likely to export, and as part of the President's National Export Initiatives, we're really trying to engage more Asian Americans into exporting, especially to Asia. But as far as MBDA, we're trying to develop a new narrative. What does that mean to be minority businesses? Because we're not all small businesses, and we all want to engage in international trade and international exports. So in essence, the diversity of America has to be captured to leverage itself for economic equity in the country and also in worldwide economics. We do this in very different many programs. Access to capital, access to markets are 2 of the big ones. Access to capital is one of the fundamental things we hear right now in the United States from businesses of all sectors. They cannot get the liquidity and loans or bonding in order to get the access to the contracts that they need to do, both domestically and internationally. So we have a lot of different programs that we're setting up to do that. One big example we did in Chicago was we teamed with the Association for Corporate Growth. We brought a lot of the top financiers of Chicago and brought them in front of many of the minority businesses that we're trying to help that are in the $5, $10 to $20 million annual range. Because that's what we see where the wealth and creation of business has to occur. For those SME type businesses to be able to expand and grow, so we want to bring them private equity, venture capital, in order to generate the jobs that we need to do in this country. The other part is access to markets. So we have a very interesting, a lot of initiatives right now. The federal government is a wealth of money in terms of research and development. Lab to market is a critical one that we're looking at right now. We have an MOU with the U.S. Department of Energy. The Department of Energy has over $120 billion worth of work out there. So there's a lot of patents that are sitting out there on the shelf that scientists, the best minds created, but how do we get that to market? So we're engaging minority businesses, both Asian American, Latino American, African American, into those mechanisms to get access to those technology avenues to help bring those technologies to market. International market is a critical one, that's why we're all here. The president has definitely started lots of initiatives. Power Africa is one that we're definitely helping out. Africa right now, over 2/3 of the continent has no access to power or telecommunications. So how do we get the businesses here engaged into the supply chain to get Africa into that mode? Because we know in the next 30 years, Africa will be a population of 3 billion people. So the growth is there, and the youth is the largest segment of the African population right now. So how do we capture entrepreneurship to bring that wealth equality into the world? Latin America is a big critical one, the President's Look South initiative. We're working with a lot of different countries down in South America to promote our Latino American businesses here, opportunities down in Latin America. And also the interesting part is Department of Commerce has a commercial diplomacy that is using the diplomacy of commercial business to bring dialogue with countries and also learn best practices from the U.S. government. One thing that we do that we've done, we've had a history of doing is have government programs to support businesses and communities, especially the small minority businesses. So lots of other countries are very interested in engaging with in terms of how do we support small business and minority? What are our business programs? We have folks from the SBA here, MBDA, lots of other businesses that are specifically designed to do that. So there's a lot of interest in that. Asia is obviously a big one, and our Secretary of Commerce, Henry Pritzker, Deputy Secretary Andrew right now is on a trade mission to Asia, China, especially on environmental technologies. One thing that we're able to do at MBDA is to bring Asian American businesses onto that trade mission. It was a very high level, 25-member trade mission over there, and we've got a Chinese American business out of California onto that trade mission. So that's where we see a lot of growth opportunities, for the Chinese American business market here. As they're, I myself, second generation Chinese American. There's a lot of new immigrants, third and fourth generation. As I said, Japanese, Chinese, Korean. That all have that cultural tie to their home countries, and how do we leverage that in order to promote international trade and exports? The other big one, the talk of the town right now, and what the president has done, is trade with Cuba. We are on the Cuba Task Force right now, and we're the Department of Commerce and the State Department, two lead agencies in opening up both the diplomatic and the commercial side of Cuba. So we're right now engaging in short-term, mid-term, and long-term engagement plans with Cuba, learning how to leverage Cuban American businesses, Latino businesses, any business here that want to start engaging Cuba, and we're going to start setting that platform. One of the most critical industries right now is telecommunications. That's the one thing that we've clearly heard about, is infrastructure for technology and mobile phone devices. There's going to be a need for demand for that, and that's one of the big industries that come out of the block first right away. But now getting back a little bit on the technology side, it actually ties into the youth entrepreneurship, because there was some dialogue here on, the youth workforce. I heard in the previous panel, there's a lack in trades, electricians, the workforce. So how do we capture the youth environment from a pathway of workforce into entrepreneurship? There's a lot of civil unrest in the country right now, what we're seeing in Ferguson. So how do we actually, as the federal government, going to come in and help build sustainable models from education through workforce? And what we see is the true way to get through a lot of the unrest we're seeing is entrepreneurship, building that wealth capacities for minority communities that haven't had that equal access to opportunity for education and business. We had a very interesting, last week, we met with the producers of the Shark Tank. So that was an ability to get minority businesses into that pipeline to be a contender for that TV show Shark Tank. Because we have to look at a lot of different innovative models for the youth through technology, mobile apps, and through mechanisms of modern television, because the millennial generations want things very quickly, and TV shows like the Shark Tank are a great way to be able to do that. So I think I had 2 minutes left. I'm going to wrap up. Do I get extra credit or an extra drink ticket, type of thing when I do? So, okay, great. So I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for doing the selfie. You can hear a little bit more from my colleague George Mui here from the White House Initiative and the Department of Commerce. But thank you again for your time. Looking forward to the conversation.
Well, fantastic. Thank you all very, very much. Very interesting ideas and a dynamic panel. A couple of the themes that run through the discussion, clearly technology is changing fast, and so fast that we learn about it. Well, we're learning about it after it happens, but the other theme that also ran through was that technology is causing companies to really seek partnerships out in a different way than they have in the past, perhaps. On the one hand, we might think that technology allows us to do things on our own, right? We don't really need other people as much. We can do this by ourselves. But on the other hand, on the business model side, maybe because there is a lot of, the change is fast, but the expertise required for each of the pieces is also much deeper, that Delta, for example, works with Alipay instead of trying to do it all by yourself, right? I mean, that's true for a lot of the things that were discussed today, and also in the first panel. So it's pushing us to think more in terms of community, and it's not just cutting deals, it's how we can cooperate across these mediums. The other thing that struck me was we have very long established companies, such as Delta and Ethan Allen, and they're behaving like startups, you know? Good for them. I mean, it really does matter, and if you don't behave like a startup today, you probably will be an old, long-established company that disappears. So that's really a critical aspect, and it's very impressive what these companies are doing. And finally, in terms of the government sector, despite the comment that the government is behind in technology, actually it doesn't seem that way from what you described in terms of using social media and all of thinking about how to increase access for people by using technology. And I've also been very impressed with export.gov and even irs.gov in terms of what you can access in terms of information and get things done. So, you know, I'm also impressed with that. So on that note, we are open for questions. I have a bunch, but I would like to also share the time. So will someone come take the microphones to share around the room? Okay, so we're ready for that? Okay, excellent. So do we have any questions on the floor yet?